Now I'd like to recognize Dr. Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our ranking member, and thank you to the witnesses for being here today and for your testimony. As a 40-year retired college professor, I'm appalled at the recent reports of anti-Semitism that we've seen in this country and the demonstrations of hate overall. Anti-Semitism has been a serious issue in this country. It's been ongoing and has existed for a number of decades. You know, we've seen hate, unfortunately, trickle down to many parts of our society, and today we're looking at our colleges and universities. It's horrible to me that students are being attacked simply for who they are, and every student, regardless of race or religion, deserves the right to study and to learn safely on a campus, and they deserve the right to walk on the campus and just be there and feeling safe about it. Ms. Burdett, in your work at the Anti-Defamation League, you developed policies and strategies and programs to prevent and counter anti-Semitism. So can you discuss briefly some of the strategies that you use to help schools combat anti-Semitism, and in your experience, how have the institutions responded to these strategies?
So institutions in general in this country want to do better. And working as a lobbyist for the Anti-Defamation League was like, most of the time was like falling through an open door. I think institutions need outside partners and expertise and validators and supporters. But one of the most important strategies and things that we have learned as a country is that where there is data, action follows. And where campuses have programs that incentivize and promote reporting and make it even more comfortable for students to make a report, they can look at their problem and quantify it. And the fact that, you know, everyone on this committee could actually ask their own police department to start reporting to the FBI. And I just can't emphasize enough that if you have a diverse city in your district that is reporting 0 or 1 hate crime, it's not credible, and we all know it. And so reporting, even schools that have a policy against bullying, and bullying, by the way, hurts Jewish people and our brothers and sisters in other communities, where a policy is posted online and promoted, children are safer. There are less suicide threats among kids. And so these kinds of spotlights that we can put, and then I've talked a lot about prevention. Prevention really matters, because once a hate crime has happened in a family, some families will actually never recover from that trauma. And I think we've all seen cases like that.
Thank you. We've seen so many traumatic experiences throughout our college campuses. I've worked particularly with our HBCUs and others. Hate anywhere is a terrible thing. You've talked a little bit about the Office of Civil Rights and the fact that we need to fund this department, because when we look at the fact that we've had an uptick in Title VI complaints, and the years that the Republicans have been in the majority, the Office of Civil Rights has either been underfunded or not funded at all. But I want to ask you about, since you mentioned diversity, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs on college campuses were designed to address potential issues among the different demographics. There's been a recent surge in attacks against DEI programs. I've heard many of my colleagues use this argument. So what role can diversity, equity, and inclusion programs play in responding to anti-Semitic and racially hostile acts on campuses? We've got about 37.
I don't know a single Jewish person who isn't very scared right now. And I don't know a single Jewish organization or Jewish school principal or rabbi that wants the civil rights infrastructure of this country to be decimated. Now, diversity, equity, and inclusion work maybe wasn't set up to anticipate a group of mostly white people scared of hate crimes, but it can be enhanced, and the people that I work with have adapted and are protecting Jews now. So don't bring it down on account of us. We need it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you. I'd like to,
Do you think that the Congress can disarm people who are mentally ill, who have been committed to mental institutions?
So setting aside an enumerated powers problem, so they're in the District of Columbia or something like that, there's definitely a tradition for restricting sale or provision of weapons to the mentally ill. That all the examples that the government has cited are late. They're post-Civil War sources, I think, for that. If not, so I think maybe is the answer to this.
I'll tell you the honest truth, Mr. Wright. I feel like you're running away from your argument. Because the implications of your argument are just so untenable that you have to say, no, that's not really my argument. I mean, it just seems to me that your argument applies to a wide variety of disarming actions, bans, what have you, that we take for granted now because it's so obvious that people who have guns pose a great danger to others, and you don't give guns to people who have the kind of history of domestic violence that your client has, or to the mentally ill, or what have you. So I guess I'm asking you to clarify your argument because you seem to be running away from it because you can't stand what the consequences of it are.
Your Honor, I am running away from interest balancing, because I understand that same sort of argument could have been made in Bruin, could have been made in Heller, could have been made in McDonald, and in fact were made in all of those cases, right? Legislatures have made a judgment that it is dangerous to have people carrying weapons about. Legislatures made a judgment it's dangerous for handguns specifically to be possessed. And the court didn't defer to those late or mid-20th century judgments, or even early 20th century judgments about dangerousness in that scenario. Instead, the court said, we are going to follow our understanding of the original public meaning of the text, and as illuminated by the historical tradition of firearms regulation at the margins. So I guess that's what I want to say, is that if there's no such tradition, so if you couldn't, I'm supposing that we would find examples of people having firearms removed from them if they are in imminent danger to others. That historical record has not been built in this case because that's not the kind of law that we have. I do believe that it's there, and I could give some additional examples where I think we could find support for that. But if not, if there were no historical support for that, we would be left with what the text says, which is you have a right to keep arms. And so in that sense, that would end.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. And thank you for allowing me the opportunity to talk to people much, much smarter than I am. And today's meeting it's protecting Main Street over Wall Street. So I want to talk about Silicon Valley Bank, because it doesn't seem like they were protecting Main or Wall Street, quite honestly. And I'm astonishing because it doesn't seem like there are a lot of people talking about this. And this almost effectively was going to blow up the economy, and it's astonishing. And as far as I know, I haven't read about any kind of charges or anything like that. And, that dude was back to Hawaii, to his gigantic house. And again, it's astonishing that there seems to be more outrage on that as well, too. And to me, it's also astonishing that you can have one bank could crash the entire economy. And once they realized what was available, is that the White House and everybody all agreed that we have to act very decisively and quickly as well. Blows my mind that is even made possible. And my question to anyone on here, and I don't mean that to be aggressive, it's an honest question because I really don't know. So what was behind Silicon Valley Bank's crash? Was it greedy? Was it incompetent? Or they don't care because the government's going to be there to clean up this kind of a mess? Or is it one, some, or all of them, or whatever? Honestly, because I don't understand what it actually is. So I want people, experts and much smarter than me, to know where it was.
Senator, first of all, let me say I appreciate and agree with your outrage about what happened with respect to Silicon Valley Bank. There was significant bank mismanagement of interest rate risk and
That's a
liquidity
wonderful
risk.
euphemism, mismanagement, but yeah, I'm sorry.
And, they engage in activities such as eliminating hedges that would have helped them deal with interest rate risk in order to increase short-term profits. Their incentive compensation was not appropriate. It was not aligned with making sure that they took care of risk. There were enormous failures at that institution, and I share your outrage about the conduct.
Senator, I think the short answer to your question is all of the above. I mean, this bank touched all the bases.
All of the above? Right, okay, yeah.
And it was positioned so that when it experienced stress, because of its reliance on uninsured deposits, that had a contagion effect on other institutions that really did, for a moment, put the system at risk. And that was the larger issue that was revealed here, I think.
I'll just say that I generally agree with both of my colleagues here on the panel. Certainly, the events of March were a reminder of us all to need to be risk-focused and ready to act expeditiously.
The only thing I would add is that there was very aggressive growth at that institution without the commensurate controls. And that's why we, as safety and soundness prudential supervisors, that we pay very special attention to that and put a lot of emphasis on that.
I want to clarify. Was aggressive growth? Is that greed? A nice way of saying greed? Because it seems to me, and I mean that's but I guess my last question, because I have less than a minute left, but it's like, should one relatively kind of a smaller bank be in the position to crash the economy? It's astonishing that, one, that's even possible, but now when it's actually happened, why isn't this like every day until we make sure this can never happen again? And I mean, I guess you effectively agree. I'm assuming that, but of course asking.
Senator, I agree with you. I think it's a wake-up call that we need strong capital in the system. We need strong liquidity in the system. We need strong supervision. I think the kind of contagion we saw suggests that there's a higher probability of default and loss given default in our banking system because of that contagion. And we need to have strong capital, and we need to have strong liquidity.
And Senator, it also underscores the interconnectedness of the banking system. So we had a bank, $200 billion is not little, but it's not near the top either, but it was in a position to cause real financial stability risk.
Another 30 seconds, Mr.
Of course.
Thank you, sir. And for the other, I'm very honestly interested in.
Certainly, Marty is right on the interconnectedness issue within the system. It also highlights the need for us on the Financial Stability Oversight Council to coordinate and ensure that we are effectively working to protect against the risks so that one institution does not bring down the system.
I think the incident underscores the importance of us keeping our eye on the ball with regard to safety and soundness. That's what drives our missions. That's where we need to drive towards.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Fetterman. I think Senator Fetterman's last question and the summary from each of you really summarizes the hearings well. So, John, thank you for that.